he has a strange personality. And not only did he convert to Islam in its radical version, but he succeeded in converting his mother to this version of Islam. She spent 3 times in Syria, and then she was condemned to 10 years, in prison in France. So he is a kind of charismatic personality. And on top of it, he became an emir. Emir means a kind of general, general of a squad or something like that. And he took part in the execution of at least 2 Syrians, in killing them. So he is being put on trial because of human rights issues. The crime occurred, in Syria, but it is now possible to condemn them as they did it in Germany or in other European countries. That means those crimes committed in another country can be condemned in Europe. And that's what is going to happen. And in his case, he was active in many respects within the Islamic State, the so-called Islamic State, Daesh. He was able not only to have the control of many people under his orders in the squad which was called Al-Muhajiroun. He also made a lot of publicity, propaganda, in order to attract people to Syria. And on top of it, he was in touch with the Abaoud, if my memory is correct, who was the mastermind of those attacks in November 13 in Paris.
November 2015, because I want to ask you about that point, because from what you mentioned, the crimes were committed in Syria, from what we understand. Was anything committed in Paris? Because he did say he was in touch with the mastermind of the Paris November attacks, which would mean technically that is there some complicity?
He was more than complicit with these people. He seems to have been in touch with them in order to commit the attacks, with them. He sent an email to Abaoud telling that he would be there if he was freed. Of course, he was not freed. He was sent back to France from Turkey. And he was condemned. I mean, he has been for 4 years and a half in prison. But he might have taken part in the November 13, 2015 attacks if he had been freed.
Very quickly, I just want to ask you, how important is this case? Because, there are a lot of jihadists, European jihadists, who are essentially stuck in limbo over in Iraq and Syria right now. And there's a hesitation on the parts of European states to bring them back and try them under European law, given that, getting evidence, etc., will be difficult. Is this case some sort of a precedent?
It might be, but, he was sent by Turkey to France. If he had been in Syria for a longer time, France might have refused to get him back. France and Germany and the other European countries prefer by far these people to be tried, in Iraq or in Syria. So, in a way, it's his chance, because in France he might be condemned to 20 or 22 years or 25 years maximum sentence, whereas in Iraq he can be condemned to death.
To life sentence.
More than life sentence, to death, because then France might have intervened in order to commute it to life sentence, but otherwise they are condemned,
Indeed.
to death.